And we're live. This is the weekly Crypto Bootcamp Hangout. Today is Saturday, January 20th, 2018. And with us today, we've got Brian Fidalgo II. We've got Vincent Mattioni, our man in DC. And on the road is Tracy Ingram, who we may or may not see, depending on whether or not he's able to avoid crashing his car while participating in a video hangout.
Right.
Your local laws regarding this kind of activity may vary. This week, I think the biggest topic on everybody's mind has been the biggest topic on everybody's mind this week has been the January crash. A lot of the naysayers have taken this as a great opportunity to talk a lot of trash about all of us still in the crypto space, because my God, how can we even be there? Can't you see this worthless instrument that's going to go to zero?
Right.
And so I've been feeling a whole lot of, I told you so, you suckers, right up until last night and today, when the market has, started to show some actual recovery. And one of the things that we point out and talk about frequently is the fact that the January Bitcoin dip is literally an annual event, right? It's been doing this for the last 3 years, definitely, maybe even 4 years, if, depending on how big of a scale you look at. And the reasons for this are pretty well established. The Asian market drives a lot more of the volatility in crypto pricing than any other marketplace. And during this time of year, a lot of them are pulling their cash out prior to the Chinese Lunar New Year, which, is sort of like a Christmas kind of celebration, in that you've got people who are traveling to see family and buying gifts and stuff along that line. So cash tends to be king, and they pull their money out of the marketplace. And then the rest of the market's like, oh God, values are dropping, sell, sell, sell. And all those, stop loss limits are triggered, and you end up getting massive activity downwards. But of course, what we've seen over the last 3 years is that we've had, anywhere from a 100 to 1,000% increase in the value of crypto tokens in the months following the January downturn. And I think for most of us who've been in this space for a little while, it's like, hey, this is the every year thing. Why is everybody freaking out? So what have y'all heard regarding the current crash? And are we all suckers for still being in the game?
Yeah, it's a bubble. See, I told you.
Tulips. It's tulips.
It's tulips. I heard somebody bring up Mt. Gox, and just loads of uninformed people making informed statements.
That was one of the things that tripped me out, is that study got released, showing how a couple of bots had influenced Mt. Gox, 4 years ago, 2013,
Yeah.
And I'm like, look at the marketplace right now, and look at how exchanges are right now. Look at how much regulation is already in place, how much the technology's improved. To go look at Mt. Gox in an exploit where two bots were able to trade coins they didn't have. It wasn't even real trades. They were just able to get their fake trades listed on the Mt. Gox exchange as though they were actually happening, and were able to manipulate the price that way. It blows my mind that people would consider that some sort of indictment against the state of the technology today in 2018,
Yeah, it brings you back to hanging chads all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told somebody it was like, that's like saying that email today is useless and insecure because back in 1999, the I love you virus tore through all of our exchange accounts,
Right.
Yep.
Well, it's still. I mean, I think that the biggest, outlying issue with crypto is that it's all digital, right? And people can't lay their hands on it ever. I mean, mostly, most times you do bank transfers, you don't touch your money anyways. But now that it's there's absolutely no way I can have this in any form that I can touch. I think it's difficult for people, It was difficult for me. I don't know about you guys. The first time I made a transfer between exchanges, it's like really quick. If you capitalize this letter, copy it. Anything is off. My money is gone, so I transfer like $10 just to make sure that everything's okay and you didn't mess up.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, the first time they've done an exchange between like GDAX and Binance or something, you know, that 20 minutes or so when the coin isn't showing up in either account, you're like, where's it at? Where's it at?
How about the first time I went to transfer money out and wallet address after?
You're breaking up pretty bad, Brian. You might want to get closer to your Wi-Fi source.
Yep. I was saying that I did a transfer. And I went back and I made right address. And I was like, wait, what was the old address? And I thought immediately, you know, your mind starts feeling, you start thinking about, oh, well, maybe I was hacked. Maybe there was some sort of bot that changed it and then changed it back. And then, like you said, you're waiting for things to, you know, to register on the network to have however many confirmations that whatever exchange you know requires. And you know,
I think a lot of people don't understand that you know there are tools that you can use to verify that those transactions have occurred because they are blockchain transactions. That's the whole point, right? You can look at Etherscan, go find the addresses, you can see the transfers, right? They may not be appearing yet in your UI, right? But the token transaction has occurred.
Right, that's right. And these are things I learned after the fact, but those first few times, and I think this just is an area where people just getting into this market are very new. So when they hear news about bot or anything like that, they automatically think, oh, you know, I need to pull their money.
I don't know if it's just me, but it seems like your audio is fading in and out real bad. You might want to stay close to your Wi-Fi.
Right, but I think he has a good point though when you talk about new users, when you're talking about someone who's just getting into this from the beginning, it is a little bit more challenging to get over the part. Okay, I have to buy coins to trade, and I have to buy, but I'm buying coins, and now I'm taking coins from you know fiat or U.S. dollars into one coin to buy another coin, and then you know that paper trail or the non-paper trail of the electronic trail. Is probably a lot of, you know, is that big hurdle right now that I think from a user standpoint kind of still exists. And that's where the technology is starting to catch up. So things like Coinbase have come in and made it easy. But then it kind of, you know, they have their own problems.
They charge you for it.
Yeah. And we've seen that a lot. I mean, we talked previously about the issues with UI lag, you know, between the exchanges before. But I think it was Jason Nunnally this week, maybe, who was asking, or maybe it was you, Weiser, I'm not sure, who was talking about, you know, what are the easiest ways to get my currency in and out of the system? You know, what's the fastest route to make those things happen? And somebody on another group had just, you know, they were like, you know, it's not a real currency or you know, it's a potential scam when it's hard to get or it's easy to get your money in and hard to get your money out. And I don't think that people really understand that it's not that hard to get your money out. It's the same process as getting your money in, just in reverse, you know?
I mean, especially if you're trying to get large amount, you know, it takes 3 business days, 3 to 5, you know, like I can't imagine that people think that it's some instantaneous transaction. It doesn't happen that way in reverse.
And I think a lot of that as well is about which coins are selected. You know, one of the things that I've been recommending is if you're just getting into Coinbase or GDAX to get some tokens to start participating in an exchange, don't buy Bitcoin. It's the slowest of the coins to get into an exchange, you know. Get it in Litecoin or one of the other, you know, faster tokens, and you're going to see that result faster, you know.
Yeah, you said that, and actually it was interesting because I was transferring Bitcoin the whole time between GDAX and Binance, and it was interesting that I saw you post that about the Litecoin and stuff. I was like, oh, well, that kind of makes sense. I just didn't think about it. I'm like, oh, no, you buy everything with Bitcoin. It's just what I thought, you had to do it.
And I think that's another confusion point in the conversation. A lot of what we've been seeing over the last week while everything was crashing, everybody was talking about Bitcoin. Now, most of us who are in trading, we've got a spectrum of altcoins of, various types and holdings in different things. We've got some ETH, we got some Litecoin, we've got a number of tiny altcoins that, we're sort of looking for growth on based on things. Everyone knows that I'm long on Tron just because I like where the technology is going. I like the partnerships that Justin's forming. I think that it bodes well for being a prominent coin in the Asian market space. And the Asian market space is the biggest player in crypto. So, for them to start having these partnerships and start adopting these tokens, to me that bodes well. But everyone, it seems like outside of it, Bitcoin's the only thing they've heard of. So that's all they're talking about. And all they see is the movement of Bitcoin's value, but they're not registering the connected movements of all the other tokens that are essentially indexed against Bitcoin,
Correct. Yeah, I mean, it's the rabbit hole effect. You go in and you're like, oh, there's this cryptocurrency called Bitcoin. And once someone gets under that, and they're like, then there's this thing called the blockchain. And then there's now 10,000 different altcoins that you could personally purchase. And they're like, and it's trying to get someone onboarded to a point of, okay, I'm comfortable with this transaction. This transaction's happening, but now wait a minute. Now there's all of this stuff. And what differentiates it all? And that's, I think, a whole nother level of weeds that people get into.
Yeah.
Something we've hammered on many, many times, I think, in our conversations is there are fundamentals in crypto, but people just don't know what they are, And so they just look at it as we're making these, sort of speculative bets against, a number of tokens without having any sort of reason. Like, we don't have any value assessment of the tokens. We're just betting that 3 set of characters is going to do better than another 3 set of characters. When I think that if you look at the actual conversations that occur around tokens, nobody in our group is ever like, hey, here's a wildly speculative 3-character set. Should I throw money at it? No, it's, hey, what is this coin for? Who is building it? Has anybody heard about the organization behind it? Do you know what the white paper says? Those of us in the space are doing the research, but those outside the space don't see that research.
Well, it's like, to be honest, crypto is the Wall Street of the of techies. Like, if we were business moguls, we would have a perspective on shares and the way businesses move in Wall Street from a place that, they make moves that we think they're talking about 5-digit numbers and monthly P&L and EBITDA and all those kind of things. We're like, what? I mean, there's a lot of backstory, so when we look at it from a completely different perspective, we're like, this is how we're looking at crypto from like you said, white papers, from what the market understanding, what is the community behind that those people, all those different research topics that we're using to back up the technical analysis even of a graph, so it really is, it's thankfully it's a way for us techies in on some money shit that the old business money of Wall Street wasn't prepared to let us in on. It's so fast,
Well, and the other part of the equation, I mean, I'm very much reminded of the rise of Uber, right? Because one of the biggest problems that Uber faced when it was, fighting for adoption is the fact that you had a very established, very, very heavily regulated taxi industry. And then you had Uber that comes along and it's like, there is no regulation. There are no taxi cab tokens. There are no, where's your medallion?
We paid for all those licenses already. You know how much money I had to give the guy in the back end to get those licenses?
Exactly. And so you've got an industry that is heavily vested in the structure remaining exactly the same way. You've got individual taxi drivers, like the actual medallions in New York City. I think they're like $1 million to get a new car on the road. You know what I mean? And so if you've got people who all of a sudden are just coming out and they're just, hey, I'm in my 2008 Subaru and I'm picking up dudes and making money, and
taking money out of his hand.
Exactly. They're disrupting a revenue model with a competitor that the traditional model is in no way equipped to compete with,
Yeah.
No, and then you see things like Kodak where, they try and jump in. themselves, back themselves into the technology. Be like, oh yeah, you can order a cab with your app too, or we've got crypto, Kodak, totally.
Well, and the hype around the market is, I mean, it's, as pragmatic as I think most of us are when it comes to how we're dealing with crypto. I mean, all of us are in some degree tech people. I'm not really sure exactly what you do, Brian, but I know Jason and Tracy and Vince are all career technology folks. The idea that we wouldn't be doing technology research on some technology that we're speculating on, it's just ludicrous, But there is a lot of hype around the industry, and we have to fairly admit that, there's a significant amount of investment in crypto that occurs from non-technology people who are FOMOing,
Yeah, well, and right. Money, they see, but they see green. They see, us talking all over the, interweb, talking about, oh man, 500%. Oh, I wish I would have had this. I had never hit them up like at the beginning of last year when I was so pissed off at where had I not got in sooner. And then I was getting in. I was telling every one of my friends because it was one of those things. Just like, if people had knew about Google and you had told your friends, you'd be that friend who was like, dude, remember when you called me about Google and then we bought it and then look at us. We're all millionaires. So
I was in on the Google IPO, but I did not become a millionaire. So I was in on that.
With any investment instrument that does well, right? The answer to when is the best time to buy is always a year ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so the whole thing, I mean, I caution people constantly. I'm like, part of the reason that I do okay in my little limited day trading is because I'm not worried about how much more I could have made. I'm only measuring what I made. I bought into Ethereum at 190. I sold it at 390.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so
it was like, woo!
I doubled up, right? I didn't lose anything. I only lost if I'm doing that government math where it's like, well, it could have gone to here, so therefore we lost 70%. Bullshit. You're doubled up,
The unrealized gains. Yeah.
Right. And unrealized gains aren't gains, No. Realized losses are losses. So,
Well, and that's why I asked the question that I did, and a lot of people responded back with the currencytracker.info to be able to kind of do this, because I started seeing with all of these individual trades, and even one trade to buy a coin, if you're going through Coinbase, 2GDAX, and everything else, I started saying, well, shoot, you got all of these fees through here, and then you start missing the fact that the fees are actually costing money, and you start looking at how much money you think you're making, and then you forget about all these details.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons.
So I did find that Excel plugin, which actually, I don't know if anyone got a chance to try that out, but it's a Google Sheets plugin, and you can basically put in the current price of any cryptocurrency. So you can basically cut and paste your ledger from Binance into Google Doc or Google Sheets, and then basically have hard-coded codes, and then it'll fill in your current prices with whatever you bought.
Nice.
Here's the thing, though. I don't even think that all that is really necessary. Because the way that I've transitioned I've changed how I think about it versus how I'm recording it, right? And one of the things, and this is what Brian Cribbs kept smacking me about. I was like, how do I track the relative value of this, and how do I do that? And there's all these spreadsheet solutions and all that. And I'm like, dude, I am not going to be filling out spreadsheets and doing updates. That is just, I don't have time for that in my life, And he's like, you're still thinking about it wrong. He's like, you're thinking about it in relation to USD. He's like, pick one of the big major tokens that you want to accumulate over the long term and trade pairs against that token. And your goal is to do nothing more than to increase your total hold in that token, right? So I bought into Tron at 259 sats, right? Satoshis for the people who aren't following the hip lingo. So, from a Bitcoin perspective, that was 0.0000297 Bitcoin per token, right? That's where I bought in. Well, then it went to 1551 cents, right? 0.00001551. I had 5x'd my investment, and I dumped immediately. And the timing was perfect, because shortly afterwards, it started falling back down, right? I'm like, woo, I win, So I ended up acquiring more Bitcoin than I had previously through, collectively playing this token back to Bitcoin. It didn't even matter that the USD value of Bitcoin had changed during that time. That had no bearing, right? My USD could have gone up or down. It didn't even matter. But the relative difference between the price of this token, into Bitcoin and out of Bitcoin as a function of how many Bitcoin, that's all I care about. Trying to keep the USD variance in Bitcoin as part of your internal equations is just way too difficult for me to do real time in my head the way that I do things, But just measuring how much relative Bitcoin do I have and has that increased, I started off with like 0.00001 Bitcoin or something. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah. The $10 that Coinbase gives you, right?
Yeah, right. And I think in grand total USD, I put in 172 initially into F. That's where I bought in. Doubled that up, right? And I'd gotten my like USD value in Coinbase up to around like 700 or so, and then shifted that into Bitcoin at 7,700. And then when it went up to 10, or like when it did that big spike when it broke over 10, I sold it I think like 10.4 or 10.6. I ended up going to 15, but who cares? I was still significantly up, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Then it came back down. I bought it at 89.50. It went to 16. At 16, I sent it over to Binance and started diversifying it among altcoins. And I've been able to almost like 10 times my total holdings in Bitcoin just with these careful plays with altcoins. You know what I mean? Short altcoins. So as long as my total number of Bitcoin keeps increasing, like that's all that really matters,
No, and that totally makes sense. But see, I know I bought some Bitcoin at 5, and I bought some Bitcoin at 7,000. I bought some at 9, and then I sold some, and I bought some back at 10. And so, I even just if I was just talking Bitcoin, got rid of all the other altcoins, I still was like, I'm in it so many levels. Where am I really at with this?
What's really funny is like, the way that became the most clear to me was after when Tron was falling through the floor, right? In fact, Bitcoin was falling as well at the same time. Brian and I were talking very actively during that time. And he's like, you know what? I think I'm going to get some more Tron. I'm like, what? I'm like, isn't everything falling through the floor? Aren't we scared of this? He's like, no, I think I'm going to go hard on Tron. And so I'm like, I'm thinking about it because my whole thing has just been like, do nothing. The marketplace is falling, do nothing, I had some Bitcoin from previous tokens that I'd sold off, and it was back in the Bitcoin stack, I'm like, oh. And so he's like, and he comes back and messages back. He's like, I just got another 79K. And I'm like, and it was at like 757 or something, I think. And he's like, here's the way that I do it. I just set a number of limit orders at the falling price so that I spread, my cost out over the fall, right? And then as it starts coming back up, I can sell equivalent amounts, knowing at what spread I got them in and knowing that I got that amount in gains for that point, So I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I'm like doing 15 things at once while trying to manage my Binance account. And I'm like buying more and more Tron. I'm stacking up. And then I like sold off something else that was still up, and I jumped back over to Tron, and I hit the 100%. I hit execute, and I realized I'm still in the sell.
Oh.
And so I sold my entire Tron stack at like less than what I had, and I'm like, oh my god. Ouch. So like literally in like 250 milliseconds, I'd flipped it around and hit buy again, right? Just to get my stack back, And what was funny was it dropped another like 30 sats in the time from when I sold to when I bought.
Oh, shit, man.
And so I actually, in that moment, ended up another 40 or 50 Tron up in my stack, despite the fact that I'd screwed up so bad, hitting sell instead of buy.
Wow.
That's a good case.
But at the end of the day, when that comes back, when Tron is on the uprise again, as we've seen, there's been a bunch of little spikes, and we're starting to see it move upwards.
Right.
As long as I'm getting more back in Bitcoin than what I spent for it initially, then my overall stack is higher,
Yeah, and I definitely like that. I mean, I definitely think that's a good strategy with it, to do it. It just, and part of me, I was just kind of starting to look at, well, where am I really at? Because I knew I bought in a lot before, a lot in November before everything started happening. And then I'm like you, I just get too busy sometimes to monitor this stuff, to be able to do it on a daily basis. And so, that's where it's like, I don't feel like I can be an effective day trader where I don't mind, some coins that I'm going to be in for like a couple days a week, setting some limit orders, but I can't be, that's why this group's been so valuable, is really just having so many people who are really digging into the white papers, digging into the coins, not just trying to do pump and dumps, but really getting in there and going, what's really the technology behind it? And having people who know what's going on. One of the things that you always say for success is find people, smarter than you and hang out. And that's a lot of what this hangout is, is a whole bunch of people.
Like you, I bought in November and watched the roller coaster go up and down and didn't touch anything.
Mm-hmm.
Just exciting ride, but many freakouts, but no action. Just couldn't let go of it because I know it's going to go up again.
Right, and I think
it's
that's where there's different types with this. Is there's those that really understand the underlying fundamental technology, understand what's going on, and really see how this is going to affect things long term. And then there's the group that are just trying to come in for the quick, make a quick buck.
Yeah, that's a science in itself, and the reason I didn't do it is because I don't really think I can gauge the market that well to be able to play it that precisely, and it's also my habit of buying and holding. That's all I ever do. I bought Amazon a couple of years ago. I still have it. I didn't do anything to it. Yeah, it's just my nature.
And clearly, you're doing okay for still holding Amazon at this point.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm still in the black.
Well, yeah, because you buy something that you like, and there's a reason behind it, not just because you're looking for that quick buck.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. It's buy something that you like, that that you understand. Mm-hmm. And it's a comfortable thing. I own some shares in Harley Davidson. I like Harley Davidson, so I've got some stock in Harley. I like Caterpillar tractors. The same thing.
Guys like Brian are more than happy to eke out 3 to 5% on a trade in order to constantly increase it, and they're automating that, right?
If you can pull it off, awesome.
So he's like disappointed if he doesn't make 0.04 Bitcoin a day in automated trades.
Cool.
Whereas I'm buying tokens I believe in for the long term, and then if I see a good opportunity to trade up a little bit, then I will, or I'll use trades to help me get greater positioning in a token that I like. Like I've gone from 500 Tron to like 4,000 Tron just with easy quick trades where I was able to double up on value.
Yeah.
And so I'm a big fan of that. But at the end of the day, I'm holding these coins because I believe in their long-term viability. You know what I mean? Verge, Tron, Ripple, Cardano, I'm more than willing to hold them at a loss, and not even really a loss, mind you, an unrealized loss because their current Bitcoin value is less than what it is. But I'm willing to hold them for 1 quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters, a year, 2 years, if need be, to see the maximum life cycle. And as long as that development team is active, as long as they're hitting their milestones, as long as new partnerships are being formed, and you're starting to see adoption of this token, you're not going to lose long term. You're just not.
True.
Right. So you actually just mentioned too that I hadn't heard of before: Purge Coin and Cardano.
Purge and Cardano, yeah, or Cardano.
Cardano.
Hey, George Recchi joining the group.
Hey there.
Amy. Hey, wait a second. It said George, and so I thought George, but it's not George. It's Amy, isn't it?
No, it's Amy.
It's George Amy.
Welcome.
Hi.
You finally introduced a little much-needed diversity into this group.
Hi, little guy.
It's a tiny man.
Hello.
Hello.
This is going to be our crypto mascot.
Yeah,
Awesome.
there you go.
And White Box. Oh, she's not down with that.
Yeah. Well, they have crypto kitties. We could have crypto kids.
Crypto Kitty helped my girlfriend understand what I was talking about.
Really?
Oh my god!
It really did. I was trying to explain it to her. She wasn't getting it. And somebody had Crypto Kitty, and it was like, "Oh, this I get." It's like, all right, cool, whatever works, man.
One of the things I love best about Crypto Kitty is because in the simplest, most juvenile way, it completely illustrates what a blockchain application looks like.
Apparently.
That's a consumer level product based on the blockchain.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but I heard that if that's what it does, then that's awesome. I should take a look at it because just to see what they're talking about.
There's a bunch of people who are complaining that about CryptoKitty because so much Ethereum network traffic was in passing CryptoKitties back and forth.
Oh, really?
Oh my God. $10,000 cats, Tamagotchis. Tamagotchi was like, damn, we sold out too early.
Oh.
True story. And we've actually talked a few times about, various, what are the best kinds of apps to build on the blockchain that help, demonstrate the long-term value of blockchain. And I think like kid-focused apps are the best possible type of thing. I mean, if you look at like Candy Crush and these games that have gone super viral, Flappy Bird, right? And imagine that you wrote a blockchain-based application to run that game with a distributed data model. And, you're using like a relay network to be able to interact with that through a native mobile device. By the way, we're building stuff like that. So,
Nice.
That's a great way to really demonstrate to the business world at large the possibilities of what can be done with blockchain technology. So much of it right now is tied up in use case analysis where they're trying to figure out, I've got this hammer, where are the nails,
Well, and
Well, that's
in the speed of transmission, like you could just tell people, listen, we already have games that, I mean, I don't know how many kid games you see play, but I got two boys and they're all about this Roblox thing. And the little has damn near put $100, US dollars into buying these Robux, so he can buy the Ferrari Testarossa in the game and have the fastest car in this stupid game, Like you could tell people, well, instead of having to transfer that to whatever Roblox, immediately it's transferred to a coin that you can either transfer to something else, US dollar, and once that kid puts in, buys it with an Ether coin, your coin is already, accelerating, or it's plays into the whole, like the raise and lower of the pricing and things like that. It's definitely an opportunity that already has a market behind it. Yeah, kid apps.
The thing about it is that, because of the fact that these tokens aren't terribly stable, you have to use third-party services like, relay networks and such to try and establish some sort of reasonable value prediction for the transaction. And, there's some great tools in place for that right now, but that's part of the reason why I think coins like, Cardano, for instance, or Ripple, maybe, although some of the things I've learned about Ripple recently make me think that the stability I'm looking for in it is probably not going to be there as much as I'd hoped. But, coins that are intrinsically intended to be a fairly stable value over the long term are the ones that are much more likely to be used for retail transactions, just because the value is much easier to predict.
Right. I agree. But, nobody buys anything in gold, and like we use the US dollar.
Right.
Dollar used to be backed in no more.
Well, and here's the thing, right? You see pricing remain fairly stable in the US dollar. There's not a whole lot of variance, right? Milk may cost $2.59 a gallon or $2.79 a gallon, but it's within a reasonable minimal variance, right?
Right.
But if milk was $2.79 one day and $4.58 tomorrow, right? It'd make it awfully difficult to plan a grocery budget,
Sure.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And so when it comes to like what tokens are going to be used for retail transactions, they have to be tokens that are artificially stabilized in value.
Right.
I'll buy that.
Well, and they when we were having gas shortages, a couple years ago, and the price of oil went right through the floor, and people had a problem, and the price of, like you said, the price of milk one day was $2. Then the next day, everything in the store was $5. And like diesel went from being the cheapest shit to like, you can't. It's almost double everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And it's so I'm looking for those tokens because I think those tokens are going to gain the greatest amount of adoption. But of course, those aren't going to be great investment tokens. They're just going to be the right token to pick to build infrastructure on.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about the kid coins, I think that actually has some interesting points because, with the blockchain, you have a lot of security for kids. So then the parents, so that you can make sure that your kids aren't being exposed to things. There's a full journaling effect, and so not so much that it's hidden, but that distributed open stuff can alert people if, people are interacting with the kids that they shouldn't be, and then making sure that you can actually see kind of a journal, of what the kids did during the day and getting some feedback if there are.
It also provides a way for parents to have a little more control over that kid's spending, right? Like, Brian was talking about with the Roblox thing, right? The kid just plugged in 100 USD. Well, if you had an app that was connecting to a specific crypto wallet, right? And you've got like, 0.25 ETH in there total, then okay, that's the cap of what you're capable of spending through this app. And that could be an easy way to, give kids some ability to make consumer choices. I mean, I think the process of them buying things is an important thing on how to learn,
Right.
But then also to separate it from your primary app store monetary connection, which is adult level decision making,
Right. Right.
Definitely true.
Yeah. Because he definitely charged the $299 for the year. And we had to go get that money back. And he learned his lesson about, I accidentally hit process. Yeah.
Let's talk about Ripple for a minute, though. I do want to. We've talked in the past, and I've been pretty vocal about why I think Ripple is a good long-term bet. But a lot of the arguments that I made about why I thought Ripple were a long-term bet were related to the banks actively using Ripple as the token of transfer. And so what we've learned in the last 2 weeks, looking through some of the news about how Ripple's actually being implemented, it seems that the banks are using secondary networks using the Ripple protocol, so to speak, and not directly using the Ripple token. And that's a bit concerning to me because my expectation with Ripple was that since banks are using it directly and need a value that is predictable to be able to do these things, if they're not using the token directly, then those breaks aren't there. Like that structure isn't there. And that just opens Ripple back up to possible wild volatility.
Yeah, but I think it just like in the way that any of these have their own, are starting to have their own tokens, so that you get 50% off transaction fees by using BNBs or whatever on Binance, and
all the exchanges are doing that now. Even Monaco is running their own Monaco tokens. And part of you signing up for Monaco is agreeing to hold X number of tokens and not sell them.
Right. I think that at a certain point, once it's kind of 6 in one, half a dozen in the other. You never know which way it's going to end up. But once they're using the Ripple protocol, I think that I would hope that the Ripple team, if they've got their things together, and they can converse with the banks enough and make enough deals, I think that they would get a place where like, well, listen, we're charging you X for transaction fees. We'll give you a discount if you start using this. And then there, like you said, adds value back into the coin in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the massive, it is, the underlying technology is going to drive the coin value more than anything else. And I think a lot of people who are looking at crypto-based companies are starting to think of the token as investment in that company versus buying shares of the company, So, maybe there's just a whole new kind of trading that evolves that really fundamentally thinks of tokens as stocks, and that you're getting your own dividends out of the company just by participating in buys and sells that are sort of helping to drive token value.
Sure, I think the only thing holding that up would be some sort of, again, formation of laws to make sure that, like some really smart people didn't put out an awesome white paper and have us all fucking bamboozled. Be like, they did a great ass website, they did a awesome white paper. This is like the new awesomest shit we'd never heard of, and it's like hoverboards. Oh, we've got a hoverboard.
A lot of people made a lot of money on hoverboards.
Yep.
Yeah.
Listen,
But at least they did.
It's like
what they were
dinosaurs.
supposed to do.
That's why fundamentals is not just reading the white paper. That's where you start, because you want to know,
Sure.
like, what problem are you trying to solve? That should be the beginning question for any business, right? What problem are you trying to solve? Okay, you've proposed a solution to a problem that I think is worth solving. Now, is your solution a viable solution for that problem? That's question number 2, right? Okay, cool. Now I'm convinced that you've identified a real problem and you've proposed a real solution to it. Now, number 3, who are you?
Right.
And are you capable of delivering the solution that you're talking about?
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people who have had great ideas. If you look at the list of failed Kickstarters over the year, there was great problems solved in proposal. But then when it comes time to actually deliver the product, they run into this, oh, God, I didn't know anything about supply chain. I didn't know anything about logistics. I didn't know anything about warehousing. I didn't know anything about dealing with Chinese manufacturers. I didn't know anything about scaling or security or sustainability. I wildly underestimated the cost of bringing a product to market. That's frequently a problem. One of the best things about crypto-based platforms is that since they're primarily software platforms, you can reasonably get together a group of dudes who are all like-minded and believe in a product and get them to work on spec for a year, and maybe you can bring a product to market on $10,000 US, who knows, as long as you guys can all survive in the meantime and you're just covering infrastructure costs and the bare bones of getting set up as a company, that can happen. I think there's a better chance for crypto projects to succeed than a lot of other types of startups. But at the end of the day, you have to evaluate those points 1 through 3 when you're making investment decisions in crypto, because if it doesn't meet all 3, you shouldn't throw anything at it,
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah. Well, those seem pretty universal questions, not just even for crypto. Pretty much, anything you want to invest your money in, be like, what are you doing? Be like, why are you doing it? Be like, who the hell are you to be? All those things are pretty much right down the alley of good forward thinking in life. So, yeah, she agrees.
Absolutely.
So, how's everybody's portfolios recovering now that the market's starting to return? I know that I'm still about 20% down. How's everybody else?
I'm in the black still. I'm fine.
Yeah, nicely done.
Yeah. Mine seems to be pretty much in the black. That's why I was really trying to go through it. But, through all the calculations, it looks like I have a little bit more Bitcoin than I think I actually have. So that number might not be exactly as great as it is, but I'm still up right now.
I think, for me, I had been working to heavily leverage myself in Tron. So because Tron is still down, a fair amount from where it started initially, I think that probably is affecting my total position, but not really that much, because today it's been playing close back, and so that's where I've regained most of my value. I think the biggest places where I'm still hurting are in my Cardano and Verge. Those are the two that I'm still pretty significantly down on.
Has anyone looked at ETFs?
Oh, and REC as well, Request Coin.
Has anyone looked at ETFs?
ETFs against crypto?
Yeah.
I haven't. Has anyone else? I'd love to hear some input on it.
Well, I bought some GBTC.
Really? I think we were talking about that on a morning show that I was on, the Jamie Kulaga show about 2 months ago.
Yeah, I'm up 47% since November.
Really?
Yeah.
So my question about GBTC at the time was that it didn't seem to be anywhere near as connected to the price of Bitcoin that it should have been, I thought.
It's not.
As
management
Bitcoin started showing
like
significant growth, GBTC did not reflect that at all.
No, it didn't. Well, it did when it peaked.
Right. But it was super slow to reflect it.
Yeah.
Bitcoin had already gotten up to $8,000, and GBTC was still sitting at like, I don't know, 1,500, I think.
Yeah, I bought 14, so I'm still doing okay.
So where's it at right now?
17 and some change.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And also, there's going to be a 90-to-1 stock split this week. So the price is going to drop down to a share will be about $26 to make it more affordable for people who are trying to get into it. I moved a lot of stuff from my IRA into it.
Really?
But I still hold.
See, I think that's a place where we can probably have a lot more discussion in Crypto Boot about some of the traditional alternatives to actually playing in the marketplace. Because if you're not at all the kind of person who wants to put your funds out there and try and make good picks on tokens,
right,
but you
and I'm not.
want to do some investing in the space, I mean, maybe GBTC is a good option.
Well, also that was the place. That was the place also I had money to play around with, and I found that I could move stuff around, and it was also I could do it without declaring income on my investment.
Oh, that's also a good point. You know, Kim was asking earlier because she's, you know, she was looking at making some moves from our mutual fund into crypto. That might actually be a better option.
It's viable.
There's no other way to invest with your IRA in crypto other than GBTC.
Exactly.
Right?
So I had to go find a way. That was what I found. Oh, there's another one called Block that's coming out this week too, I believe. BLOC.
I was asking about that, Chris, earlier this week. I put that question up. I think we talked a little bit about it.
Yeah, and my comments had been at the same time that I wasn't sure that it moved rapidly enough to really track against BTC accurately. But it sounds like, you know, there's a potential for growth.
If you're looking at it that it's not going even with Bitcoin, then why would you even be there? Just put your money in Bitcoin. The advantage of being over GBTC is because you can leverage it in your IRA. And I think.
Well, and for those of us self-employed too, you know, you can basically do, you know, IRA, you know, you can basically start putting stuff away in that investment savings account. You're allowed to put so much away, you know, each year. So that actually also becomes a really great way that you can start putting some money away that you're investing towards in a tax-free type situation.
I can either give $5,500 to Uncle Sam, or I can give $5,500 to crypto. What do I want to do?
Right.
I mean, you know what I mean?
Seems reasonable.
Hard to argue with that one.
The money's going to be gone either way, right? Well, I mean, of course, I'm going to be putting it in other places, but another one that I was playing around with my IRA because I couldn't get into crypto for various reasons with verifications and other things was Square, which I know this is not necessarily. We're not necessarily, it's not necessarily crypto, but it is something that you can use in your IRA that is directly impacted because of crypto, and has been showing very small gains, but gains nonetheless. So,
here's the thing about that. I mean, it's, you know, Kim had been showing a lot of interest in crypto, and she wanted to get into doing some trading herself. So I'd walked her through getting Base and getting her set up on Binance and all the rest of that. But what we've been finding is that our easy funding sources are drying up because Coinbase itself is starting to get added to lists that the merchant processors reject any transaction from. So, you know, I don't know if y'all remember, but about a month ago, I was posting up on the group talking about I'd all of a sudden started having problems using PayPal against, you know, to get USD into the marketplace. And I can get it back out through PayPal easily, but it's purchasing via PayPal that I'm not able to accomplish, you know? And so that like I had to start changing how I was going to interact with the market via USD because of that. Well, then we were using a Capital One card, and the Capital One card is now rejecting. And then we started to use our bank card, and then the bank card triggered the fraud alert. And so it's like, you know, it seems like traditional POS merchant processors are cutting off the ability to directly interact with USD to crypto. And it may very well be soon that wire transfer is the only effective way to move cash, US cash, in and out of crypto holdings.
Didn't the head of Visa come out about that, something like that, and saying that use it but don't use our market for it, or was he just talking? I know Bank of America talked about Merrill Lynch, and they weren't going to go anywhere that direction. But
I mean, those are definitely serious concerns, right? Because if the actual banking systems themselves cripple crypto by locking or blocking your ability to get money in and out of it, then that's going to significantly impact trading for sure. Far less people dumping USD in on a whim, But over the long term, it's going to affect viability of crypto if you can't use it for transactions easily because they've blocked it in their systems. And I think that for a lot of us, looking at this space, that's a possibility that we hadn't really considered, which may involve, a new payment systems company having to come up to fill that niche. I mean, we may have a brand new Google out there whose job is to do nothing more than to act as a payment portal for USD to crypto transactions.
Well, that is what Square is setting out to do. So read up on that a little bit more, because that is
sounds like
what
a good
they're
trying to buy stock in, maybe.
What's that?
Maybe.
I said sounds like a good company to buy stock in, maybe.
That's what I'm saying. I did. I grabbed some because I couldn't get any crypto, and because of what they're doing, they're trying to be the payment gateway for crypto.
Right.
So.
That sounds like it would be a good investment.
Word. Well, it's the last 10 minutes of our public hangout. So as per our newly established tradition, this is going to be noob question time. So does anyone have any noob questions that they want to ask about crypto in general? Jason, you're always good for at least one.
I have learned so much this week, I got to say. Just asking my noob corner questions in the group itself. Been learning a lot and just trying to wrap my head around so very quickly, all right, if I were to take 15% of my income every week and invest it into my retirement, of that I would take 20% and invest it into crypto, right? And then I'm starting to watch these strategies, and I see these posts talk about things like, Tron went from 6 to 9 and it's easy money in and out. And I think, well, hold it. The only time that makes sense is at scale. And I'm not there yet. My 15% a week at, the money doesn't make sense. $30 on 1,000. I'm just not ready for that yet. So this sort of quick, short in and out is not the strategy for the newbie, I've decided. So instead, I think what the right thing for me to do at this point is to pick your main coin, which I'm going to go with ETH for now, and pick some of these smaller ones just for the sake of watching them and maybe speculate. It's kind of fun that you can grab 300 coins right now for $20. Something like that. That's fun. And sit on it. But this whole notion of, being really aggressive in the day trading, look, and I don't see, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see anybody being able to really, my time is worth so much more than the amount of money that I can get out of the time that I would invest in the day trading to try to grab this 3 to 9 or the 6 to 9 cent jumps on Tron, right? So I've really that's I think a mindset that's really important for newbies. You get wrapped up in all of this veteran talk and this, I think there's a lot of people that want to pretend that they're the whale out there. That look, really, come on, let's all be realistic, guys. We're not throwing coins. We're not throwing fiat around like it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. I don't think there's a lot of people.
We do have a few whales in the group, and if you'd like me to tag them, I'll let you know who they are. But
well, I can see who they are. Just read the writing on the wall. It's right there. They'll tell you. They've already told us who they are. But apart from them and being the noob of the group and really enjoying this kind of hey, I'll carry the flag for us little guys, or this, a low budget. I'm not going to throw a lot of money at this till I understand it. So this week's lesson for me was understanding strategy, really just buying a lot of buy some alts for the sake of understanding it, getting to know it, but really not getting distracted by all that, picking a coin and just keep funding that coin when it makes sense. And like I just showed, during this, during our show or our talk right here, since we've started, I was showing this just a second ago, but since we started, I've been watching what Tron's been doing, and halfway through our conversation, we had this beautiful spike. Now, if I was a day trader, there's a lot of money to be made right there. Boom, watch what happened there, sell what happened there. That's great. But the amount of money that I've got into that, this right here is just exciting to watch, but there's really not an end of the day profit for me to be made. I don't see.
So here's the thing. It's first of all, I've always said repeatedly, if you're not a day trader or a professional financial investor, or any of the rest of those things, if trading is not a daily part of your life already, then don't put more than blackjack money in. You know what I mean? Throw the money in that you would spend on a good dinner or night out or something, and just skip that dinner or night out, and then play with that kind of money, a couple $100, $500, whatever, whatever your risk for absolute throwaway money is, whatever that stomach level is for you, do that, right? Guys like Walter, I hit him early on. And I'm like, what's your stomach for risk here? Because you're making a lot of big plays. And he's like, no, I'm not worried about this at all. I'm like, okay, well, cool. If your stomach for risk is 10,000 USD and you're totally cool with losing that in a weekend, then, go nuts. But,
but that's not mortgaging your house.
Who is not a trader of some sort, right? Keep it to blackjack and fun money. Don't put anything in there that's going to hurt you. Don't get a loan from your Aunt Edna. Don't mortgage your house. Don't be an idiot, But at the same time, the way that I've been able to increase my position significantly in a lot of these coins is by making some of these short-term plays on variance, right? A coin is 200 or 300%, and I'm not the 3 to 5% guy. I can't spend that much time paying attention. But when a coin's 200 to 300%, okay, I might go ahead and swap that back out to BTC and wait for it to drop again, which it will at some point, and then reestablish my position in that coin with a greater holding than I had previously, And so that's allowed me to stack up on a number of coins like Virgin Tron just by making, good short-term plays. But I think the real long-term answer here, even for casual traders, is that we're automating those systems. Most Forex traders and day traders are using a ton of automated systems to make these plays. They're not like literally making every single pick that happens. They're watching the market over a series of time to create rules in an automated system and say, this is what I want to do this week. When it hits these targets, do this action, right? And so that's one of the things that Brian's been working on is, he's been doing personally, manually, a lot of those 3 to 5% trades, but he's been doing it to build algorithms for the application that he's working on, which is going to automate the entire process, And then he just puts money in and comes back at the end of the day and checks on how it's doing,
Mm-hmm.
Me personally, if I can throw my, $1,000 holding at a little bot that's going to eke out another 12% a day in growth and I don't have to look at it,
awesome.
That's a no-brainer,
All right, let me sneak one last thing in here too. I think that if we can, I know it's time to hang up, but I'm throwing it out there anyway. Electronium, Cryptopia, seems to be a big buzz about it right now, and seems to be the only place you can grab it is Cryptopia, and everybody's saying Cryptopia is junk. You can't get your money in, you can't get it out. It feels like there's no safety net there. There's not a comfort level. Anybody have any opinion or thought on Electronium and Cryptopia?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give my opinion, and then I'm sure others do as well. I don't have an account on Cryptopia. I do have an account on BitGrail. And it was specifically because I wanted to get in on Rayblocks. But I think that's the last time I'm going to do that. I do not like having to deal with these like sort of one-off exchange solutions, To me, part of the validation of the coins that I buy on Binance is the fact that they're listed on Binance. There's a little more work involved in getting your token there. It's an indicator that your development group is at least somewhat reasonably stable and knows how to make business partnerships, And so it just, I know that I miss out on some opportunities to get things at ICO level prices because I'm not participating in all these way out exchanges. But first of all, I don't want to have to manage. I already have like 16 crypto related accounts. I don't want to have to manage another 100 of them. You know what I mean? And even like all these little standalone wallets and stuff that I download because they're going to airdrop me 100 of their coins. As soon as that coin can live in any other place, I'm moving it back to someplace consolidated, and I've heard a lot of complaints about Cryptopia and Kraken, and less so, but about KuCoin as well. I think for me, it's, I'm in GDAX because it was connected to Coinbase. I'm in Binance because that's a solid exchange that my friends in the banking industry recommend, so if they believe in that as a stable exchange, despite it being in China and despite, the sort of, operating outside of the protections of American governmental regulation, I'm just trying to keep things as consolidated as possible. Now maybe that's antithetical to the decentralization ethos of crypto, but that's just pragmatism in my life, You're muted, Gabe.
I was talking to my son just showed up. He's asking about you.
We all thought you said something and we didn't hear it. So, we all had to stop and wait to see what your answer was.
Well, he actually asked if you're a bad guy. He said, "Is that guy a bad guy?"
Who, me?
You.
Self-professed.
I said no.
Come on, man. I'm Gandalf. Gandalf's not a bad guy.
Yeah. He's not the only one actually with long hair in this group. Just believe it or not, we actually used to get confused for each other, but it doesn't happen that much anymore.
Over there.
Who else here has an account on Cryptopia? Any other opinions on that?
Is that where Telcoin is? The TEL?
Yeah, I think so. They were talking about Tel today.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, oh, another coin. I'm like searching for it. I'm like, I don't see it anywhere.
So you're not on Cryptopia?
And I think that's the So I think that's one of the challenges with noobs too. Is like when you are young to this, is like how much things do I want to be checking? I have enough trouble checking email. Do I want to be checking all these different exchanges to make sure what's going on? And I still have an Electroneum wallet when I got started because I've actually been part of a couple of ICO startups. I was involved in a Bitcoin startup back in 2014. Never bought any Bitcoin, and and I think one of the the other things I found was like going to mining would be. I looked at it and I'm like, okay, well I could buy a miner, but I could also just buy some coins, and the rate of return on just the coins seemed to be better than trying to deal with the fact that I might even have free electricity in my office. Did I want to do it the hassle? And I have a friend who literally built a miner and it's down 50% of the time because it's this thing or a plugin update or a problem. And
Word. Well, I guess that wasn't much of an answer, Jason, but
it'll get the conversation going.
Yeah, it might be something to post up in the group
about it because there's a lot of buzz about Electroneum right now. There's a lot of people talking about it on Twitter, Reddit, all over. There's a buzz.
Yeah, right.
And at the same time, there's a lot of people that are pretty frustrated about Cryptopia. Went there myself. Went to go sign up, and struggles. Wasn't straightforward. Didn't have the same Binance, Coinbase feel. Easy in, easy out, type thing. So I don't know.
I think that's
and I think one of the problems with finance is a lot of people already made a lot of money off of it and then lost a lot of money now. So there's a lot of when that that original split happened and a lot of people bought in. I do know a few people who bought in pretty heavily and made some good money off of that. I don't know if they sold. In that drop, you have a lot, very similar to a Bitcoin type thing. You have a lot of people who got a huge pump and now it's there. So that's going to, that becomes emotionally charged.
It's an interesting,
whenever you're emotionally charged, you're going to keep talking about it.
It's just an interesting dynamic within, crypto itself is by the general masses is crazy lunacy, taking risk. And yet the people in crypto that are all excited are the early adopters. We took risks, we gambled, we rolled the dice, we went with. So why is everybody bitching about Cryptopia and Electroneum? Because it doesn't sound too terribly different to me than what the early folks were doing with Bitcoin itself. Wasn't that. There's no real guarantee or assurance, or it seems like the same kind of risk that was taken back in the early days would be the same kind of risk that you would take now. And here's a new frontier, a new opportunity. And I think the guys that are going to make money on that are the ones that kind of had that same mindset. Hey, we rolled the dice back on Bitcoin when it was $3. Let's roll it on this.
Here's I think the concern with that. That was back when Mt. Gox was the exchange. And what we found was that with a poorly coded, poorly secured exchange.
Okay.
Am I frozen? No? Okay. So, when Mt. Gox was the only exchange, the risk with Mt. Gox was high. And people didn't even realize it, right? And Mt. Gox got hacked and people lost $33 million in Bitcoin. And so, when you look at exchanges like Binance and Coinbase that are maybe a little more generic and a little more vanilla, but they're also more stable and they're better secured and they're better developed, it reduces that risk significantly. So are we willing as Bitcoin investors to accept the risk that we used to accept back in 2012, 2014, knowing what the outcome of that could be? That's a hell of a lot bigger bet,
Well, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. As hey, again, as a newbie and the amount of money that I'm throwing at it, why not? I'm thinking I'm going to try to figure it out, throw $50 at it, and just see what happens. I mean, what's you can either win big or
I threw $100 into Shit Grail, and I'm hoping that I'll get something back out of that.
Right.
But I've thrown $100 in some beers before, and I didn't get much back out of that.
I'm going to take that as the opportunity to stop the live broadcast. If y'all want to hang out for a second and let me do a quick wrap up with you, that'd be awesome. But for everyone who's watching this on YouTube, thanks for tuning into our weekly bootcamp hangout, and see you next week.